There it is. Thanks, Gary, for being with me.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to quickly introduce my experience with you. This is Gary Vance and his company, Better Life for You, because it really opened my eyes, my experience, and I just want to share it with everybody. So this is being shared on our Herb Doc and our Health Track page, so everybody knows who follows that I'm a herbalist and we are a herbalist company. So we base everything off of the physicality of things. So the actual imbalance or dis-ease, as you'd like to say, for organs and glands in the physical body. And that's incredible. And you cannot live without supporting the nutritional aspect of your body. But what blows me away with what you do, and that I'd like to share with everybody, is my personal belief is the actual stress and the emotional imbalance of things is really what I'm going to go out there and say really kind of feeds, if not creates, the actual physical imbalances in the body. So my experience with you has been, which I'll let you talk about the alignments and the process you do it with, but it just changed my life completely when you did the first session on me. And it's incredible. And I'd never experienced something so powerful for changing the mind. So I'd love you to explain what it is you do and how we can share that with people.
Sure. A little different doing it here live than standing in front of a real person.
Yeah, it is.
For me. So because there's a lot of things I like to share, and it may not be all in order. I might skip some and might come back to them, but I think your audience will get the idea.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Basically, when I was at your place a few weeks back, I started out in the end, I would say to people when I didn't really quite know what to say, I'd say, well, guess what? There's an epidemic today and it ain't COVID. And people look at me like,
what? Yeah.
There's a different type of an epidemic today. It's here with all of us. It's what I call silent, unrelieved stress. It's a specific type of stress. Now, in 24 years that I've been doing this, I think I found 2-3 people max that weren't locked into a stress state. That's why I say it's an epidemic. And when that mechanism is on, it creates havoc in our whole system all the way through. The longer it stays on, the worse that you get. So the way the system is supposed to work, simple, good old fight or flight. Most people probably know this, but I'll go over it quick anyway. Let's say you step out in the street in front of a car and you're not paying attention. And all of a sudden, right away, your brain is going to sense, hey, I'm about to get killed or whatever. It is going to go in fight or flight. You're going to have something like, I think it's about 100 different physiological changes that take place in the body. Heart rate goes up, muscles tense, you're getting ready to do battle. So your brain is going to decide quicker than you can think, actually, what to do. It's fight or it's going to do the flight thing and run away. Now, it doesn't really matter how smart you are, how intelligent you are. You can be the smartest person in the world. You can't move quick enough. You can't think your way through that situation. Because while you're thinking about it, you've probably already got hit. But there's a part of the brain, the limbic system, looked after you really, really well, like it should. And it instantly puts you into fight or flight. Hopefully it gets you out of the way in time. Now, within 20 to 30 minutes, everything comes back down to zero baseline, which is exactly what it should do. But in today's world, the example I like to give is an argument with the boss at work. And right away, the stress level comes up and you're thinking to yourself, well, I can't punch the boss out. That's the fight of the fight or flight. I'm going to lose my job. I can't do the flight and run away. I'm going to lose my job. So now I'm going to freeze. I'm going to stuff it. So now it's fight or flight or freeze. So a little while later, whether it's a few minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whenever this problem has resolved itself, you walk away from the boss, you start to settle down a little bit and you go, man, that was really stressful. I'm glad that's over with. But the brain says, I got to stay in emergency standby and watch this doesn't happen. Yeah. So I'm going to show you something quick. I don't know if this will show on your sheet or not. I use this at your place a little bit, or sorry, on your screen. But if you can read that, or you can see the chart, it's maybe a little too blurry.
I can,
you can see this zigzag effect that stress levels go up. So each time you have an incident in your life where you're experiencing basically negative emotion, you're triggering that mechanism. So it's an accumulative over time. And in the early stages, there are no symptoms 80% of the time. It's an epidemic. Well, the real problem with that it isn't just the arguments you get into with people. There's something else that adds to that stair step effect. So each time you establish a new baseline, it gets higher and higher and higher. You think you're in a normal spot when you're not. But as time goes by, you run into different things every day. An example like you use, let's say you open your door in the morning, you're expecting to pick up a newspaper off your front porch. There it is laying in a puddle of water. You're just looking, you go, oh shit.
Yeah.
Right there, that's a little bit of a tweak because the brain is always monitoring how you feel. So if you feel negative emotion, there's some type of danger out there. So it'll just tweak the mechanism just a little wee bit. And that's what makes it so steady. It's a little bit at a time. That's why some people will call stress the silent killer. But it's that specific type of stress to get you. But here's the real kicker. And I think this is the most important part from my perspective. When you're under stress, the way the brain works, it becomes, I'm going to call it, has a lack of coherence, discoherent, where it should be coherent. It should be all functioning, all different parts of the brain functioning like an orchestra, not acting in harmony. So when you have that fragmentation, you don't access the higher brain centers. And the higher brain centers I'm talking about are the ones that help you stay connected to what I call your higher self, your greater self, your spiritual self, your inner guidance system, your innate intelligence, your inner being, you name it, it's all the same thing to me.
Right.
That is your most valuable asset. And the way you know when you're really connected to it, is by how you feel. And if you feel a lot of ease, you can even feel very excited about something, but basically all the forms of positive emotion, then your brain begins to back off and say, oh, I'm safe now. And now I can instruct the body to go into a healing mode.
Yes.
This is what we skipped a few minutes ago at the start. Like I said, I'm jumping around a little bit here.
That's fine.
When you're under that stress mechanism, energy is taken away from healing, thinking, and metabolism, and it can severely impair your immune system by at least that if you get very, very stressed.
Well, absolutely. The thing is, like even in my line of work, I've seen so many serious life-threatening imbalances, like diseases and stuff you want to say, that have been shown to be from a traumatic emotional event. And they go, no, that was 50 years ago. Well, when did the symptoms start? Oh, like 49 years ago. Like it's all the emotional.
I'm happy you brought that up because it just jogged my memory about a favorite story I like to tell.
Perfect.
So this was a lady who was 82 years of age come to see me. And she had what she referred to as Parkinson's-like disease, but she didn't have Parkinson's. She had all the tests done. And so when I first met her, I got to move my chair here. She would be standing sideways with her head turned like this, shaking. And she couldn't look around to the front. She's just continually doing that. And I said, well, how long have you had that problem? She says, oh, well, 26 years. I said, what happened 26 years ago? She said, well, I was crossing the street on foot and I got hit by a car. And about 3 weeks later, my head started shaking like that. I said, oh, says, was the car coming from the left? She just looked at me with great amazement. She said, how'd you know that? I said, well, because your brain's still looking for the car coming from the left. It might appear like I'm looking to the right because I think this video is reversed. But anyway, it was coming from the left.
Yeah.
And the brain was basically still wanting to see if that danger is coming.
100%.
So she got her first session done. Because of the age, I explained to her that often if you've had a condition for a long, long time, then it's going to be quite some time before you can retrace their spot. Results are usually better if you're younger and so on. However, she proved me wrong. Basically, after her first session, she came back in and she said, I think my head's shaking this much. And I'm looking at her, I'm going, oh, that's great. The inside, my brain's going, I don't see any difference.
Yeah.
And then she says, I slept almost 6 hours last night. And I was keeping track over the years at that point. What problems people had a lot of and what they responded to the quickest. Sleep was the first thing that people would respond to. Sleeping well, they started to sleep better. So I'm appalled to think that all she slept is 6 hours. Is that all? She just looked at me in a squeaky little voice. She goes, Sonny, you don't understand. I've never slept any more than 15 to 20 minutes in 26 years because my head was do this on the pillow and wake me back up. Didn't do it that night.
Yeah.
I thought, whoa. So it took a long time ago now. It took about 9 months, little by little, head come around, come around, come around, come around. Still had just a little wee bit of a shake. She could never get rid of totally.
Yeah.
Other than that, come right around. And she said her memory was better than it had been in years. I remember saying that too.
Well, see, the amount of symptoms people are walking around with the day-to-day basis, that's all due to the stress response in the body, is almost every single person pretty much. And then we're just getting medicated for it and numbed, and when really, if we can deal with the stress, because the very first time I met you, my mom was going, you got to get this session done. You got this. And I had to go to Dauphin for clinic, and I was going, yeah, okay. You've got to get it done. Okay. So finally you did it. And I didn't understand it all. Like a lot of people, when they come and see me for the first time, I just did it. And then as I was driving to Dauphin, and this sounds crazy, I could almost hear my voice in my head talk to me going, what are you stressing about, man? Like everything I was worrying about that I didn't even realize I was worrying about became so dominant and present when I just wasn't worried about it anymore. I felt so free and uplifted. It was scary. Like, did he just slip me a drug or what happened here? Because everything was just so great, like just so connected and free. And then after, when you guys came back a couple of weeks ago, you were back, it's life-changing. And with my clients, everything that I see, I'm helping them with the nutritional, which you cannot ignore. But I've been saying to them, if you can fix your thought process, because our brain is neuroplasticity, which means every thought that we're doing, which is changing different pathways and structures to make that happen. So all the constant negative chatter in our head is why we can't just say a couple positive affirmations and then be stress-free, because our brain's going, no, this is what you do. This is what you do. And your sessions and your work that you do is just the best I've ever experienced, to just take you out of that stress response and make you go back into, hey, life ain't that bad. And if people can get that done, experience that, and then help program their brain, we will have healthy people walking around, which is why I wanted to have this interview with you, so people can be aware that this exists and this is a real problem, but there's an answer.
Yeah, for sure. Sure.
It's just incredible.
Well, you mentioned the negative thought process. I think studies show something like 90% of our thoughts every day are negative. And most people will look at you and you say that to them. Well, not me. I'm not that bad. Maybe 50%. But you'd have to understand what's meant by the negative. And that's another long story we could get into. But basically, one thing I didn't understand before I got into this work was, I always thought that as we aged, cells slowly died, and that was part of the aging process, and not much of anything regenerated. But as it turns out, we grow a new stomach lining every 4 days, a new liver every 6 weeks, a new skin every 6 months. And I used to use that in my talks years ago, and I had a person stop me one time, and he said, "Wait a minute," he says, "my brother has liver disease, and we know what caused it. He drank too much." I said, "Well," I says, "what about all the guys out there that drank 2 to 3 times longer than your brother ever did, maybe even twice as much, and they never get liver disease?"
Yeah.
How can you say the alcohol caused it? Now, alcohol is not, it can be a great stressor on it in itself, a physical stressor, that's true.
Yeah.
But if you've got the underlying mental, emotional, silent, unrelieved stress on in the background, now you're sitting at a predisposition for deterioration anywhere in the body. And there's theories around why certain areas of the body deteriorate before others.
Yeah.
It gets more into a philosophy than science at that point.
Yeah.
But so there's all these different little components. It's cool. So in the end, because people are probably wondering about now, well, what exactly do you do? I get asked that a lot, and it's hard to explain, but I just ask people, experience it, go for it. It doesn't take long to do.
Yeah.
It's very simple. But the premises, of it is that it is a hands-on process. Yes, there's some education that goes with it, but the hands-on process is done in such a way that it gives sensory input to the brain, causes the brain to come out of the silent, unrelieved stress state. And I'm talking in a deep and meaningful way. Like, you can go out and you can get a massage, you can do acupuncture, you can do a whole bunch of different things.
Yes.
All those things are helpful. And if they're helpful to you, by all means do them. But they don't go near as deep as what this does.
Yes.
If you were to take a box 4 feet square, and you had it full of stress switches, every stress switch that you could ever possibly turn on in your life, and you went and say you got a massage, you are going to affect certain switches. You might do acupuncture, it's over here with an overlap, chiropractic over here with an arrow, it just goes on and on. But with this process, it's the deepest, widest range you'll find everywhere. I'm still looking for something better and I haven't found it yet.
Well,
if I did, I'll be doing it.
That's why we're having this meeting right now, to get that out to clients, because as far as the emotional balance, to get the stress off the body, traveling across Canada and dealing with other people around the world, you've come across a whole bunch of things and nothing has made me go, what, as much as what you're doing, which is why I just want everyone that I possibly know to experience it, because it's just incredible.
And here's the cool thing about it, because this is what really sets it apart from anything else that's out there. Number one, some people aren't going to like to hear this, actually not a treatment. People think that it is because of the results that they get from it.
Right.
The point is, when you really truly come out of this stress state, the whole brain functions different and direction is given the body to heal. And the proof is in the pudding when you're done with it, right?
Yep.
But the thing that I really like about it is the philosophy around it is that basically when you start to disconnect from who you really are and you start to feel negative emotion and you start to tweak the stress mechanisms and the brain, the rest is all science, right? That's where illness comes from. So in a way, your body's a great feedback mechanism to tell you all your life, hey man, you're not paying attention to your inner guidance system here. You're deviating from it too often.
Yep.
And it tells you by, in a sense, delivering negative emotion into your experience. That's kind of the philosophy around it. But what I'm skipping around here a little bit again, but the thing to remember is brain, and I'm going to use the term your higher self. I use that a lot, of your true self.
Yep.
Those two things together are what determine the order in which you will have result. So I can have 3 people come in the door and they might all have the same symptoms. Can't sleep, stomach's upset, back hurts, they're depressed, whatever. They all have the same thing.
Yeah.
After a few sessions, person A will come in and say, man, I'm like 50% better in this category, 20 here. This one's almost 0. I really don't notice any change right now. And this one's up here. The next person comes in, it's turned around the other way because everyone needs something different.
Yes.
The beautiful part is I don't have to sit here on the outside and pretend to be the smartest guy in the world and learn anything, because I already know the person I'm working on is a way smarter inwardly than I am consciously.
Yeah.
Hear that again, inwardly versus consciously. Often we think we know what we want, what we need, but we don't. And sometimes I have people get disappointed because they want a certain symptom to resolve themselves. I'm going, that's not what this is about. You're in the wrong place. If you want to get fixed, go get fixed. But as we were taught in school, you can go ahead and you can fix a symptom, but one or two things is going to happen. Either that symptom is going to come back pretty quick, or another one's going to come to replace it until you get deeper to the root of what it is. Now, if you want to start going really deep, then you can start getting in the mind, the emotions, and we could start to mention a little bit about affirmations. I'm not a big believer in them because there's a specific way they need to be done and at a certain times of day, and there's reasons for that.
Yeah.
And the reasons, then you can use them to a degree where they start to work. And then if you go a little further, okay, back a little bit here, because at the start, you mentioned the business name Better Life for You, which is the overall objective. But when people say, well, what do you do? What we're talking about here in particular tonight is what I call the alignment process.
Right.
Okay. So there are 3 components to what I call the release and recovery process. Actually, release, recover, and reconnect. Release stands for releasing the silent and relief stress, recovering homeostasis or balance or brain coherence.
Right.
And then the last, reconnect to who you really are, to your higher self, greater self, spiritual self, whatever, which I still say is your most valuable asset.
Yes.
So as you go through all that, there's different stages. Alignment process is the first part. The second one is what I call the medi breath. So it's it's a specific way of breathing, very slow. It's a combination of different modalities I've learned over the years. And it is a way to get you experience going down very, very deep state where you go into what I'd call a quantum field, where you start to change things for yourself. So you can actually reprogram yourself. Do that through workshops. Combination breath, meditation. And that's another way to go further with it if you want. The other thing that's got kind of popular is there's something like, I think it's 1 you might know the statistics. It's either 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 6 women have had some form of abuse in their life. So I've got this emotional clearing done. You've experienced.
Yeah.
And I've had really good results with that because it's something really, really simple. So you can have something that's got a high emotional charge that keeps upsetting you, keeps directing you in a bad direction in your life over and over and over again. You just can't shake it.
Yeah.
This process doesn't take any more than a minute to do. You have to have the alignment process done first, at least 3-4 times, and then you can do it. And that is something that still baffles me because usually you only have to do it once, twice at the most, and that's it. Only had one case where I found that it didn't work at all.
Yeah.
That's great for those who know that there's a challenge there.
Yeah.
And you can use it for what you might think is something smaller in your life, something that upset you earlier in your life comes to mind.
Yeah.
And you can use that as a clearing. You can do that during the session. It can become part of the actual alignment process session. That's something else I have found is pretty valuable.
Incredible. The whole concept of it is incredible. Once you start to take the right nutrition supplements, but then once you can change, man, you change. It's the cliche saying, you change your thought pattern, you change your life 100%, because we are just so programmed to be negative in this world. And like you said, people go, I'm not negative. I've even had clients say, okay, well, every time that you complain about something, even in your head, write it down, record it. And that by lunchtime, they're like, holy, you don't realize that you're constantly just going, come on, cut me off in traffic. Oh, taking too long to make my Subway sandwich. All these things, you just complain. And then your body, your cells are listening to your your nervous system, which is complaining all the time, which goes stress, stress, stress. Because they've taken the exact same cells and put them into different environments, which should have the same effect of diseases, but the stimulant from the environment change the outcome of the disease. Those studies of taking a plant and saying, I love you, hi plant, you're happy, and then I hate you to the other plant with the same sunlight, the same fertilization of water, and the one that's getting the negative dies. That's the exact same what happens to our body. So the same with the alcohol thing of, well, because that's a very, very popular question. Well, I take supplements, I exercise, why does this happen to me and not this person? And I always say, well, they're not even acknowledging what's happening to them in the first place. So yeah, the thought process is crazy, but your Better Life for You. So that's your website.
Yeah.
So people can check out a little bit more about you as well too, but it'd be too much to get into the details of how you do what you do. So the thing of talking to you today was basically just to figure out, or just to become more aware and talk to people so they can watch us and go, holy, I better check in to see where am I at with my emotions and my thinking process, and then reach out to you so you can try and help that, because I've had it done. I've watched other people get it done, and it is for your thinking, feeling, thought process throughout the day, just emotional stuff. Nothing compares. It's incredible. So it's great.
Yeah. It's a blast. I love it. I when I first started, I didn't think I'd be doing it that many years, because it is done same pretty much in everybody. There's some slight variations, but the rest of it is practice to become good at it. You've got to be committed to it in order to learn it. But I just found over the years, time went by, I did not get tired of watching what kind of reactions would have.
Yeah.
What kind of changes they would have. Sometimes it's very minor, sometimes it's major. So, I mean, when I first started, one of the most interesting one was, and I hadn't been at it very long. I think I'd just been certified maybe a few months. And there was this young guy, 30 years old. His aunt and uncle were trying to get him to come around to their house where I was to work on a few people. And he had a problem as a cocaine addict. And so I gave him his first session. He went upstairs. My negative thinking said, he's probably gone upstairs to do some cocaine.
Yeah.
He came back downstairs 10 minutes later. He was all white in the face. She said, I was just really sick to my stomach going, oh, we were taught about corrective changes. On rare occasion, you do get that. Yep. That was an extreme example. It's very seldom you see anything like that. Anyway, he said, can I do another session? And I'm thinking, oh, yeah, okay, if you want to. Now, this kid came from out west. He was not supposed to be sticking around too long. And the deal with his aunt and uncle was he could only come in the house. He ended up staying. So he got alignments over the next month. At the end of a month, his aunt saw him on the computer. Said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, I'm looking for a job." She said, "You looking for a job?" Said, "Yeah." She says, "Well, I don't want you to be disappointed if you don't get one. You know, you don't have a work history." See, all he ever did in his whole life was deal drugs. He never worked a job anywhere. He had no references. "Oh no," he says, "I'm going to get the jobs." He had a complete attitude change. Now, that was worth as much as hearing that he never touched in again. He still drinks beer. I've lost track in the last few years.
Yeah.
But he might just smoke a little bit, but her drugs were gone. That was the end of it.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And I know of another one. I met the girl personally. She was aligned actually by a scientist that did some research on us for us over in Europe. And this lady was on hard drugs from the time she was 13. And at the time she started getting alignment, she was 26. So I don't even know how she lived to be 26, according to the history. But it turned out her father was a multimillionaire and donated a $500,000 grant to, or was it more? I think it was $1 million for this guy to start a research center and do some research on this. Well, that's where a little bit of the research comes. It's not published, unfortunately, because he's, shall we say, he's walked away with the research and gone into a different direction with it, which was really unfortunate. I don't understand it, but don't get me wrong, he's not a bad guy. He's actually very intelligent, very intelligent. I hope he does a lot of good people. But point being, there's all these different cases that come up. I could tell you all kinds of different stories. I'll give you one more real quick. Katie lives nearby, and she's told me anytime you by all means share what happened with me. So this is a lady who got a couple alignments from me when I first started. 5 years went by, and I didn't see her. She just lived down the road. A couple of her brothers worked for me years ago, and one brother told me, "Oh, she's not doing very good. She's got fibromyalgia and all that stuff." I said, "Well, have her give me a call." So after about a month or two went by, she finally called. She was crying. She was in tears. She says, "Well, I just spent 2 hours and 7 minutes, hit all time, waiting for a specialist to tell me what I could do. And he tells me I got to live with this for the rest of the life. Well, if it's stress related, maybe I can help you. I can't guarantee anything." So she, oh, by the way, she was scheduled for back surgery in another 7 months as well. She was cold all the time, and she hurt so bad that she had boys that were only 2 and 3 years old, and if they went to touch her, she would cry. And so give her a first session, and she sat on the table. She says, "The pain's 50% gone." Now, I've never seen that before. This is an exceptional case because I have worked with people with fibromyalgia. It's more with most people. I figured when she come back the next visit, she'd be back quite a ways, not necessarily back to where she was, but she come back in. She's, "I'm still sitting at that 50%. Well, 3 weeks goes by. She's up, she's around, she's sleeping normal. She was only sleeping, I think it was 2 to 3 hours a day because of the pain and stuff. The warmth was coming back in her hands. The pain was dropping in her back. This was in January, I think it was 2004. It was a long time ago. And that summer in August, she had to go back for a final MRI, and she went in for the MRI, got it done, goes in front of the doctor, and the doctor's sitting there, and he's looking at one in one hand, and he's looking one on the other. And he looks back and forth and back and forth. And she's kind of an impatient person. She says, "Well, do I need the back surgery or not?" And he just looked at her kind of puzzled like. He says, "No, you don't." And she never has gone.
Well, that
I see her rarely today. I see her once in a while. I think she's probably 95% better. I think she's still got a little left.
yeah.
But other than that, pretty good.
See, right there, it's just the testimony right there of how stress affects the physical aspect. But a lot of people need to just realize it's all and everything is connected. So when you have too much stress and your physical body's failing and falling apart, you go, "No, it's got nothing to do with my stress at work or life. It's got everything to do with that." So once we realize that and they come see you, then everything will be good.
And I'll tell you, Evan, there's one group of people I would like to be working with. I kind of made up my mind about this a few years ago. I went through what a lot of people go through in their life these days, and it's that deadly D word called divorce. And the stress levels were through the roof. I mean, I've told people this, I don't mind saying it even on camera. If I had been the person I was 20 some years ago, and some of those same things that happened to me, I probably would have killed somebody. That's what fight or flight does. When you get into it deeply, remember I talked about stepping out in the street in front of a car? Same part of the brain. So when you see people get angry and they blow up, they can't take it anymore, there's something that's pushing a button. And that part of the brain takes over and the person just snaps and reacts. And when it's all over with, they'll go, oh my God, what was I thinking? Well, they weren't thinking, they were reacting out of the hindbrain, the limbic system.
Right.
That's what you don't want to be doing. You want to learn to adapt through that. So I had enough change over the years. I figured I could pretty well take anything, and I did, and I had to. It was messy. So I thought, wow, most people haven't had that ability or the availability to have that work done. So I'm thinking, boy, what a group of people to offer the service to, because that takes the pressure off significantly. And in fact, in some areas, I've had people say, not to me personally, but I'm thinking of one other practitioner. He was told, you know, you saved our marriage. We didn't come here for that. We know you did. We just feel so different. Yep. And other people will say, wow, you helped me see clearly that I needed to get out of this and move on, because they were stuck. And that's where I was. I was stuck for 10 years until I did that emotional clearing process. I came home and I made a decision. I didn't waffle anymore. And I've been waffling for 10 years. And I had all kinds of good reasons not to move on. Good reasons. Yeah. Good reasons. Don't cut it if you're not happy. You've got to figure a lot of things out, and it's not easy. So there's nothing like a clear mind and connection, because I don't care how many therapists you go to, how many good friends you got to talk to. There's nothing more value than your own inner guidance system. So there we are again. The more connected you can get, the lower the stress comes, the more connected you are, the more easier you will find a solution to those problems that you have. Because how many people that are watching this, I just, how many people would put their hand up? I've had a situation where you've got a problem and you keep going around and around and around, and you keep trying to solve this problem with the same knowledge that you have, but you need the intuition, the inner guidance to feed you the message. Once you relax the brain, you become more coherent, then the answer can come to you exactly what you need to do. It may not be what the person next to you likes, this person over here next to you likes you to do, what you need to do for yourself. So now we're getting into honoring and respecting your own self, your own true self. And to me, if the whole world could do that, it'd be a whole different place.
Amen. That's why I'm talking to you. So, Gary, thank you so much for joining me tonight and sharing your stories and a little bit of what you do. And I just hope that you and I can continue to work with each other in the future, so we can help everybody just get healthier and have such a more positive, clear mind.
Sure. I'm sure we can.
We will. So thank you very much, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care.